How to get IELTS Band 8 to 9 in speaking and writing. This video will teach you a very large amount of vocabulary of exactly the type that the IELTS examiners wants to see and hear from you in the exam. Covering the 10 IELTS topics, it is important that you prepare to answer questions on all of these 10 topics because they all may be used in the test. You will develop a wide IELTS vocabulary on all the topics and not become a specialist in just one topic. Topic 2. Education and Schooling. (27) Curriculum. The full range of subjects offered by a school or group of schools. Example: the curriculum in private schools is sometimes wider than in state schools because they have more resources. 28. Pedagogical experts. Experts in education and teaching. Example: I admire pedagogical pioneers such as the Victorian English thinkers who began free schools for all children. 30. Syllabus. The content of elements taught in a specific subject. Example: the syllabus for geography at my school included volcanoes, earthquakes, and tidal waves, which we found fascinating. 31. Formal examinations. Exams where students answer set written or spoken questions without assistant's continuous assessment giving. Students mark for coursework or projects rather than formal exams. Example: at my school, our grades were based 50-50 on formal examinations and continuous assessment, which we thought was very fair to all the children. 32. Academic achievement. The measurable performance of a student in marks, exam results, etc. Example: in my country, children enjoy school, but academic achievement is frankly quite low. 33. Further education. Education after leaving school at the minimum age. Example: some governments encourage further education by allowing teenagers to claim benefits while they study. 34. Higher education. Education after age 18 at college or university, usually for a degree. Example: when I pass IELTS, I plan to go on to higher education in Canada and do a degree in engineering. 35. Group work. Study where pupils discuss and agree on a project together. Example: personally, I think that group work enables lazy children to do less work than the eager ones. 36. Teacher-led lessons. Traditional lessons where the teacher delivers a long talk and the students take notes. Example: in my country, lessons are still very teacher-led and interaction is rather limited. 37. Autonomous learning. When a student learns through independent study and research. Example: at university, you are expected to be an autonomous learner, far more than at high school, which is quite exciting for me. 38. Study skills. The skills of organizing, using, and checking study work. Example: my study skills were rather weak until I read an excellent book by a Japanese pedagogical expert. 39. To synthesize sources. To use a variety of sources and combine them in one project. Example: I use the internet to synthesize my sources, and I always cite the origin of the information. To cite sources. To acknowledge publicly. 40. Rote learning. Learning by repetition and memorizing items. Example: I used to think that rote learning was a negative approach, but my recent experiences teaching in a South African school have changed my view. 41. To supplement. To add extra content or material. Example: My supervisor said that I should supplement my essay with more examples of experiments. 42. To assimilate knowledge, to absorb and understand it. Example, I always use a dictionary when I study in English to help me assimilate new phrases. 43. Guided learning, learning under the supervision of a teacher. Example, lessons in primary schools should always contain guided learning, otherwise the children will lose focus. 44. Data gathering, collecting information, usually in numerical form. Example, mobile phone companies employ many people in data gathering tasks to see how users are using the phones and internet. 45. Distance learning, learning by the internet or email rather than face-to-face. Example, my mother took an entire degree by distance learning over a period of 5 years. 46. Self-study, studying using a course without a teacher's involvement. Example, there are many self-study guides to improving your English, and some of them are actually quite good. 47. To discriminate between sources, to decide whether one source is better or more reliable than another source. Example, children should not study using unsupervised internet access because they can't discriminate between the sources of information they find. 48. To sift information, to remove unwanted or less useful information. Example, I had to sift hundreds of pages of data to arrive at my conclusions when I did my thesis. 49. To marshal facts, to organize facts in support of an idea. Example, in IELTS essays, you should marshal a few facts to support each idea in the argument. 50. An integral part of the syllabus, essential, central, or indispensable. Example, nutrition is an integral part of food sciences these days. 51. To work, study under supervision, under the direction of a responsible person. Example, at college, I discovered I did not have to work under supervision all the time, and I was free to do independent research. There is a huge range of resources available to the modern teacher, and the right selection is crucial in delivering effective lessons. I agree that there will always be a place for course books in the school curriculum, despite the many benefits of the Internet. Firstly, course books, whether conventional or digital, have been developed by pedagogical experts and designed to be incorporated into a subject syllabus, leading to testing procedures such as formal examinations or continuous assessment. This means that they are proven to improve students' academic achievement, enhancing their potential for progression to further or higher education. Furthermore, the use of modern course books allows pupils to coordinate their studies as part of group work, hopefully making their lessons less teacher-led and more about autonomous learning. This in itself teaches study skills such as independent research and synthesizing sources, rather than old-fashioned rote learning. This is where the Internet, in fact, can play a useful part to supplement and add to knowledge, which the students are assimilating via their course books. However, it is the role of teachers and school management generally to ensure that use of the Internet remains a guided learning process and not an exercise in data gathering from Internet sources, which may be unreliable or even misleading. It is true that the Internet can be invaluable for adults, for example, in distance learning or self-study modules, who are able to discriminate between sources and sift information to marshal their facts. However, this is a mature skill, and we should not assume that school-age pupils are ready to do this. Overall, it appears that course books, with their quality and depth of material, are set to remain an integral part of the syllabus. The Internet can be judged as a useful supplement to this if used carefully and under supervision. Topic 3. Children and Families. Nobody can deny that parental influence is important for children, at least in cases where children live with their parents, foster parents, or guardians. However, it is by no means clear that children should spend time exclusively in the family, as we will see. On the one hand, it may appear advisable for parents to act as role models and to establish ground rules for behavior by spending as much time as possible with their children. This allows the youngsters to absorb conventions and codes of conduct, which they can follow themselves, hopefully leading to an absence of problems such as bullying, truancy, and delinquency later on. Furthermore, being with the family should reduce the risk of children falling victim to crimes such as abduction or coming under the influence of negative peer pressure. On the other hand, we have to ask whether this is a practical proposition in a society where many families are dual income, or where one parent's role as breadwinner means he or she is away from the family for long periods. It is inevitable that children cannot spend all their time with the family. Child minding and after-school childcare are often used in these cases, and if managed properly, these can be perfectly viable alternatives. Equally, it seems that children can in some cases learn a considerable amount from their peers in addition to adults, and allowing them to play without direct supervision may be a benefit. To conclude, it appears that while family time is essential for bonding and absorbing patterns of behavior, there are definite advantages when children are outside the family too. This is provided that they are in a safe, well-behaved environment with peers who are themselves reasonably well brought up.